to the Wedding Vendors Happy Hour, where we dive into the world of wedding entrepreneurs. Learn how they got started, what advice they have for you, and everything in between. So grab a drink and take a seat as we interview amazing vendors with your hosts, Derek and Jade. Wedding Vendors Happy Hour. It's a podcast, but it's also happy hour.
What's up, vendors? Welcome back to another episode of the Wedding Vendors Happy Hour. My name is Derek with Derek Preciado Photography.
And I'm Jade with Jade Preciado Events. Today we're diving into a topic that every creative entrepreneur needs, especially in the wedding industry: emotional wellness and staying grounded while running a business you love. We're joined by Liz, founder of Soul Purpose Now, a coach, guide, and soulful entrepreneur helping people reconnect with their deeper purpose, heal burnout, and navigate business with intention.
If you ever struggle with people pleasing, perfectionism, comparison traps, or just plain burnout during peak season, then you're gonna love this episode. We're talking mindset, boundaries, ego, and how to realign with what actually lights you up. So grab a drink, take a seat, and let's get to it.
Wedding Vendors Happy Hour.
Hey Liz, welcome to the Wedding Vendors Happy Hour. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on our show. How have you been?
Thank you for having me. I'm so stoked. Yeah, I've been really great. And since I met you guys at the spring retreat, that was a couple weeks ago, I feel like the good vibes are still rippling out. So yeah, good.
Yeah, when we saw you at the Avenue 12 event, the wellness event, man, when I heard your talk over everyone, I was just like, we got to get her on the show. Like, I think everyone needs to hear this. This is going to be a great episode just to dive into like your mind's eye and also like your well-being for the industry. I feel like, yeah, vendors need to hear it and kind of just this episode's gonna get heavy. That's all I can say. My goodness.
My favorite. I'm like, let's go deep.
Yeah, this is gonna get wild. All right. So before we dive into the questions, can you let like everyone know who you are, what you do, and what your favorite drink is?
All right. So my name's Liz Kerrigan. I am a spiritual coach, shamanic practitioner, energy worker, breathwork facilitator, ceremony facilitator, trauma-informed care practitioner.
Wow.
Got it all.
Goes on. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to figure out a way. I wish there was like one thing I could say that encompassed all of those things, but there isn't. So right now it's just like a Rolodex of a bunch of stuff.
Love it.
Love it. And what is your favorite drink?
Yes, my favorite drink. The first thing that's coming to mind right now is an Aperol Spritz.
Love that.
Really good drink right there.
Sounds good right now.
I know.
Yes, please. So Liz, can you just share a little bit behind Soul Purpose Now and what inspired you to first start the business?
Yeah, so Soul Purpose is the name of my company. I do a lot of different offerings through that company, including one-on-one client work. I do microdosing programs. I facilitate larger retreats and act as a spiritual guide and counselor to either groups or with one-on-one work. And gosh, I mean, I really got to a place in my life where I felt like I had to start Soul Purpose. Like I didn't have a choice. It was like my destiny in a lot of ways.
Oh.
And that happened because, like all of us, I was sort of living a life where I didn't feel great. I felt like there's more out there. I should be feeling better than I was. It just felt like there was something missing. And I also had, a traumatic childhood and things like that. And so I was on a journey of healing, but talk therapy was falling short for me. That was something that I had done for a very long time. And ultimately, while talk therapy is so beneficial and I recommend it for everyone, I do believe that after a while, it can begin to fall short. And I work with a lot of therapists who also tend to agree. At some point, you're just sort of repeating your story over and over again. And so it can be valuable to step into other modalities that help you expand the ways that you might be healing. And so I started to do that, and I ended up going on a retreat to Sedona. I had no idea what I was in for. And it sort of like changed my life.
Oh.
And then immediately after that, I found a shaman and started to do work with psychedelics. So doing like actual mushroom ceremonies where you take like a macro dose with an experienced facilitator, in my case, a shaman, and you go inward and you sort of see what's there. So I started doing a lot of that work and ultimately learned so much so fast and felt like I healed so much of my past and really started to step into the person that I was meant to be. And as that started to happen, which it's still happening, it's always going to be a process. It's not like I've reached enlightenment or something like that. Like I'm so far from anything like that. But I feel like once you get to a certain point, it was like, for me, I have to share this work with the world. Like I have to.
Wow. And I'm so glad that you did. Oh my gosh. It's so eye-opening just going through what you have to share. And I know we had even just like a limited time to explore. So I can't even imagine the full experience.
Yeah. I'm just trying to picture like when you take like psychedelic. So is it like the experience like what cartoons show? Like, you know, you take your thing and you're just like, you trip out and you see these weird colors or some weird eagle man, or how was the experience for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's different for everyone. And I've worked with a lot of different plant medicines. Personally, like sat down in ceremony taking those medicines, you know, from ayahuasca to mushrooms to bufo, San Pedro. There's a lot of different types of medicines out there.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many ceremonies I've actually sat in, to be honest, but every single one is different. And it's different for every person. So when you're doing it in a really safe, energetic container, where you are safe to experience whatever you're supposed to experience, that is exactly what happens. You receive what you're meant to receive at that time in order to sort of like take the next step on your soul's journey, if you will. And so, yeah, sometimes that's a lot of visions and crazy colors and, you know, maybe crazy beings, you know, and other times it's, you know, reliving past memories. Other times it's maybe it is just like shapes or like sacred geometry type stuff. It's completely different every single time.
Wow.
And I would say the more that you can surrender to the experience, the more that you can let go, the deeper you go and the more of an experience you have. So,
yeah, that's super fascinating because I know when people hear like, oh, you know, I'm taking a little mushrooms, it's like this taboo word. Everyone's just like, oh no, that's bad, you know, but you take like what you said, like micro doses and then it kind of just
in a controlled setting.
Yeah. So
well, yeah, there's a difference. So either way, you want to do it with a skilled professional. And I think like people have to decide like whether that is a spiritual route for them or whether that's a therapeutic route, you know, and there's a lot of like ketamine therapy out there right now that's perfectly legal that you can do with a therapist. And there's a lot of people are seeing a lot of success with that type of work.
Wow.
Or you can go the plant medicine route where you, in order to do it legally, need to leave the country to do that. So there's, and in that case, you're taking a macro amount of either type of medicine. And so you're going big. You're going big. And then the other way of doing it is by microdosing. And that is more of a sustainable practice that you can do every day. And the effects are so subtle that you are still able to go to work, drive a car, do all of the things that you would normally do. It's just that you have this sort of like subtle undertone of this plant medicine supporting you through your day. In my opinion, it's like, can be for some people, a much more natural version of an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety medication. It doesn't necessarily replace that. And I'm not a doctor, so I can't like make those claims medically. But for me, in my experience personally, and with clients, that's what I've seen.
Holy moly. And I feel like everyone in this industry probably needs a little bit of microdosing. I should get out of this. All right. We could talk for days about this, but I wanted to ask, so what does soul purpose mean to you? And how does it show up in the services you offer?
Yeah, good question. I believe that your soul purpose is truly just being your most authentic self. It's like, how do we step into a place where we love ourselves unconditionally and can vibrate at a high enough frequency where we are acting on our passions. We're acting on what excites us. We are, calling in people that support that way of life, and we feel like we're in flow. It's not to say that everything's going to be perfect. We're still humans and things are still going to be hard or weird or frustrating or sad or whatever throughout our lives. That's always going to be the case. But can we get to a place where we feel like we're standing in the eye of the storm and we know we're going to be okay. And we know that we're being our most authentic selves at all times.
And that's huge. That's like, I could go into a million things about the wedding industry, about being your authentic self. That's insane. But we'll stick with what we got right now.
Yeah. So, I'm curious if you can share, like, what's been one of the most rewarding moments for you or breakthroughs that you've experienced with a client since starting Soul Purpose?
Oh, that's a good question. There are so many, actually. So the first one that comes to mind is I had a client that I was working with, and she was married, still is, happy marriage, but she never wanted to have a baby. I think she was maybe closed off for whatever reason. She just never felt the urge to do that. Through our work, she received a vision of her having a baby and felt like that was her calling, that she had been wrong and that she did actually want to have a baby. And that was like the most authentic thing that she could do at this point in time. And last weekend, I just flew to where she lives and met her 1-year-old.
Oh, that's nice. Look at that.
Oh, sweet.
Super sweet.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that must have been rewarding. So you like helped her find that, or that vision just came to her randomly?
Through our work. Yeah. The vision came in. And so everything that I do with my clients, I firmly believe like I'm not doing anything. Like they have to be the ones that are doing the work, and I'm just pointing different directions or suggesting different ways to look at things. Right. And so if people can be brave enough to step outside of themselves and look at things from a different perspective, there's all of the answers already exist inside of us. We just have to make space for those answers to come through.
That's true. That's just a hard hitter right there. I was like, All right, Liz. So everyone that's listening knows right now, you know what you're talking about. And so now I want to get into some wedding industry questions here that involves like what you do. So how important is mindset and emotional well-being for entrepreneurs in the wedding industry? And like, what first steps do you recommend for vendors looking, to prioritize this? Hey everyone, it's Derek.
And Jade here.
We hope you're enjoying this episode of the Wedding Vendors Happy Hour. We wanted to take a quick moment to share a great way you can support the podcast.
That's right. If you love what we do and want to help us keep bringing you amazing content, consider buying us a coffee.
It's super simple. Just head over to buymeacoffee.com/Wedding Vendors Happy Hour or click on the link in the show notes below. It's just a small gesture That makes a big difference.
Every coffee helps us cover production costs and keeps the show running smoothly.
Plus, it gives us that extra boost we need to bring you even better episodes and amazing guests.
So if you want to support the show, head over to buymeacoffee.com/weddingvendorshappyhour and buy us a coffee.
Thanks for your support, and let's get back to it.
It's a really good question. And I mean, mindset and emotional well-being, in my opinion, is the most important thing when you are an entrepreneur. It's the most important thing because the way that you are feeling and the energy that you are putting out is going to trickle down into everything that you do. Not only that, it's going to create this energy field around you that is either going to attract more of what you want or attract more of what you don't want. But it depends on whether you're vibrating, positively or negatively, right? And so if you are not taking care of yourself, if you are exhausted, if you are struggling with maybe healing, yourself mentally from your past or from your childhood, like all of that energy is going to emanate out. And what that's going to do is either it will attract people and situations and events that are maybe also vibrating at a low vibration, at a low frequency. So the higher that we raise our vibration, the more likely we are to attract higher frequency people, higher frequency events. Things are just going to go like the way that they're supposed to. And we just have to show up and follow the breadcrumbs. So I would say that from that perspective, really important. But also people can feel what you're going through. Everyone on this planet is psychic. We've just been taught, trained, parented to believe that we're not. And so we can feel what other people are going through. Like, right away when you meet somebody like, ooh, I don't know if I want to do business with this person. And that probably is because they have some stuff to clean up, inside their inner landscape.
Dang, okay, I'm gonna get into it. That's so crazy to think about. Cause like you mentioned, I was telling Jade one time, I was like, whenever you're like just minding your own business, you could like feel someone just staring at you. Like you just have this psychic, and you turn and then you see someone stare at you and they look away. Like we all have superpowers. That's totally. A superpower. That's crazy to think about.
For sure. We only, as humans, I hope I don't get this wrong. It's 0.000, I believe. I hope I didn't add an extra zero. We only see 0.00035% of the visible spectrum of light.
Oh, wow.
What that means is that there's so much happening all around us all the time that we don't see with our physical eyes. But if we tune in and quiet our mind, we can feel that stuff.
Oh my God. That's why when people say you need would meditation help feel just your mind's eye, I guess? I don't know.
Yeah, meditation helps a lot. I think what meditation can do is a number of things. For one, it can help to sort of train and reprogram ourselves to quiet down the monkey mind, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so that when we find ourselves in situations, high stress, the wedding industry is very high stress. You guys are putting on huge productions all the time, mean everything to the person that you're working for, right? Like that, this is the biggest moment of their life. There's a lot on the line. Yes. So how quickly can you go from being really activated by something that happens to relaxing your nervous system and being calm so that you can weather the storm and so that you can professionally get through the situation, but also so that you're not exhausted and completely depleted on the other side too, so that you aren't But right. Cause like maybe you've gotten really good at faking that. Maybe you fake it all day, but inside you're like, whoa, like, just, it's so hard. Right. And then on the other side, you're just exhausted and depleted. And it's like, why do I do this? Because I'm just so tired every time.
That literally like is transitioning to my next question. I mean, you said it yourself. The wedding industry is just so known for its long hours and high pressure situations, like you said. And so how can wedding professionals use your methods to avoid that burnout and maintain balance during like, especially peak wedding seasons?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think Derek, you nailed it. Meditation is definitely like a number one priority. And there's so many ways to meditate. There's so many apps out there now. It's like, just pick one that speaks to you, and go with that. But learning how to meditate can be very helpful. And it makes all the difference when you start your day with a meditation, even if you can only do 5 minutes, worth it. Or if you decide maybe I'm going to meditate during lunch or meditate before you go to bed, that I would say is number one. Number two is journaling. I know like a lot of people have a love or hate relationship with journaling. But for me, journaling really expedites healing, but also it allows us to get really honest with ourselves. Mm-hmm. And one of the biggest ways I think that we can stay calm when things are crazy is by creating a dialogue inside of ourselves and really understanding where the thoughts and feelings that we're experiencing are coming from, because then we can make sense of it. So a big cornerstone of my practice is basically understanding that our thoughts and feelings are are always coming from one of two places. They're either coming from the voice of love, which is our true self, or they're coming from the voice of fear, which is our ego. Yeah. And our ego is there to keep us safe. So a common misconception, I think, for people is that the ego is like this like self-inflated, like we think we're so good, like, oh, they must have a big ego. Yes and no, like that's part of the ego, but the ego's number one job is to keep us safe. Yeah. And so that voice is always going to be associated with fear. Don't take any big risks. Make sure that you don't say anything that's going to make people not like you. The voice of fear, our egos, a lot of times is that critical voice that's like, oh, you're not smart enough. You're not rich enough. You're not successful enough. You're not, that voice, that sort of like inner critic that can be on repeat. That's the voice of fear. And it's trying to keep us safe by either keeping us small or sometimes by keeping us motivated to like keep going. It's just doing it in the wrong way. And so the more that we can understand when our thoughts or feelings are coming from the voice of fear or coming from the voice of love, then we know what to do with them. When they're coming from the ego and we know for sure, like, oh, it's that judgmental voice again that I hate. Okay, we know we need to stop and reset. Because number one, we really don't want to hate anything that's happening inside of us because it's our own. It's like, that would be like hating one of our children or something like that. It's like, no, like this is a voice that's happening inside of me that's trying to keep me safe. And maybe it's driving me crazy, but I need to still love it and appreciate it and try to understand where this voice is coming from. So, okay, this voice is telling me that, that I'm not smart enough. Thank you, ego, for trying to keep me safe, but I choose the voice of love instead, or I choose my true self instead. Mm-hmm. And then what is your true self saying? Maybe your true self is saying you are smart enough and go ahead and take this giant risk and, and work with this client or, go for this next gig or whatever it is. And so okay, my voice of fear is trying to keep me safe by keeping me small. Thank you, but we're not going to do that. And then we sort of like hold its hand. Yeah. We follow our true selves. We follow the voice of love that guides us to do the thing that we were scared to do, but we're going to do it anyway.
we are actually going to get into some ego questions, but I like what you're mentioning. So like, how do you, because I feel like the negativity sticks in longer and stands out more than the positive. You know, like everyone remembers that negative thing you said, not your positive stuff you've mentioned to someone. How does someone go to that love side?
Yeah, switching doesn't have to be hard. I think we tell ourselves it's really hard because we know that critical voice so well.
Yeah.
We've been trained, parented, conditioned our whole lives to follow that negative voice that keeps us safe. That's what our parents did. That's what our parents' did. Like, it's nobody's fault. It's just the way that we've evolved is to follow that voice. And so it kind of becomes the only one that we know.
Mm.
And so by really going inward and starting to understand that there are those two voices, like, were you guys there at the retreat when I did the exercise where we named our ego and our voice and efforts of love? Yeah. So, so we can talk about that as well. But basically, when we name those two voices, we give them personalities and we sort of like allow them to come to life a little bit so that we can know, like, okay, this is definitely coming from the voice of love. This is definitely coming from the voice of fear. That's step one, knowing where it's coming from. And then after that, it's about acting on the voice of love, acting on that true self, everything that it's suggesting. And you do it one time and it's like, okay, cool. Like, I know how to do this. And then you have to do it again. And then you do it again and you do it again. And the more that you do it, just like anything, it starts to become second nature or hopefully first nature. So it takes time. One of the things I like to think about is, so we're working with energy, but we're also working with biology, with like the neural pathways that are in our brains, right? And so we all have a default mode. And right now, maybe that default mode is following our egos more than our true selves. Mm-hmm. We can walk those, like, I think of those neural pathways, like hiking trails that you've been on a gazillion times. You could walk those hiking trails blindfolded with two hands tied behind your back. It's like, they're so easy and you just know them so well. So what we have to do is actively choose a different path. You actively choose a new path that you haven't been down before. So trusting your true self, trusting your voice of love is going to start a new hiking path. But you have to choose with awareness to take that path. And it's going to take a minute. You might have to like bushwhack your way through some bushes. You might have to move some boulders, right? To wear this path. But the more that you choose to take that path, the easier it's going to get and the more worn it will become. And before you know it, the old path will grow over and it won't even be an option anymore.
And then your frequency will just be all bright and you'll start attracting all those good vibes in. It's just.
Exactly.
I remember, this one isn't wedding related, but Jade and I competed in like fitness competitions. And I was so, I guess the ego was just like, you know, Derek, you cannot do this. You cannot step on stage and just pose in front of these people. This is way beyond you. But then we did it and I overcame it. And I was just, I placed good and I was like, wow, I can do this. And it was easy from that point. So yeah, that overcoming that ego is definitely hard, but once you do it, it's definitely rewarding.
It's so rewarding. It's so rewarding. And that's the thing is, like, every time that we do that, it's like, I imagine us taking a little brick and putting it on our path of consciousness. Yeah. It's like, that's what we're wanting to do is like, how do we become more conscious? How do we become more intentional with our lives? And so each time that we do something like that, where we override the voice of fear and choose the voice of love instead, that's a moment of certainty that we can put on our path of consciousness and know that we can always do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Love it. Now we want to get into something else here. Let's move it. Let's go into staying grounded and inspired. Right, Jade?
Yeah. So how can wedding vendors cultivate resilience and stay connected to their passion when facing client challenges and creative blocks or competitive pressures?
So here's the thing. Everything is happening for us, not to us.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get the hard clients, when you have the hard moments, when shit is hitting the fan, you basically have two options. One, you can become a victim and be pissed off and let it lower your vibration and control you. Or two, you can see it as an opportunity to learn and grow. And every time that we can take a negative situation and learn from that situation, we are following the voice of love and we are raising our vibration. And on top of that, we are reclaiming our power. Because every time we're in a crappy situation, it's like, oh man, like these clients are the worst, or like this thing, everything's falling apart. Like, how did everything fall apart? Or we're over budget, or whatever the story is. And so like, it's very easy to follow the downward spiral of that and allow that to make us feel like we've lost power, we've lost control of the situation, and things are bad. So that's probably like a lot of times the default mode is to allow the external forces for us to believe that those external forces actually control us, but they don't. We control ourselves and we get to choose how we want to react in those situations. And so those situations are coming to us for a reason. They're coming to us so that we can learn a lesson. If you're going to learn the lesson in that moment and choose a different way to address it and like learn and see how you might be able to grow and pivot as a human through this situation, then you probably won't have to learn that lesson again. Mm-hmm. But if you don't, the universe is going to keep bringing you that lesson over and over again until you learn it.
See, this is crazy. So I'm going to probably say something here that the vendors are thinking. So for example, this year has kind of been like known as the wedding gap year. So it's kind of like a little slower than what we're used to. So vendors are kind of like, why am I not booking? What is going on? And you're mentioning that every direction, whatever, could be a redirection. If something's not going for you, then it's a redirection to something else. So are they supposed to be like, okay, so the weddings isn't my direction, I should redirect my energy into a different field? Or do they need to just redirect their energy into like ways of getting more bookings or something?
Right. It's a good question. And honestly, it'll be different for everyone.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's about tuning in and feeling into what really lights you up and why. Mm. If what you're doing in this industry really lights you up, then this gap year is not going to affect you. Like it could be an opportunity for you to scale your business in a different way. It could be an opportunity for you to learn a new trade that might benefit your business. It could be an opportunity for you to slow down and rest.
True.
And then come back even stronger when things start picking up again. Mm-hmm. I think it's an interesting time for a lot of industries right now, and people are seeing some slowness. Yeah. And so I do believe that it can be an opportunity for us to go inward and really look at what we want to be doing with our lives. And if the answer is staying in this industry, then tune into that and feel into what ways you can change and grow in order to make you stronger and better as a human, which will in turn then attract the business that you're looking for.
Dang, that was a heavy answer right there. That was good. And I feel like sometimes it's so, because instantly you just had that mindset of just like the positive, it might be something for you to learn a trade that could actually boost up your business or all this. And I feel like as industry, in the wedding industry, we're kind of just like our photography mindset or planning mindset. It's just like, why am I not booking? What am I doing wrong? Is my website not being seen? Is my Instagram not being seen? Is no one referring me? Or just all that negativity just builds in your brain. You just can't help but think about it. So trying to get that positive part I feel like it's sometimes hard to.
It is. Yeah. It can be hard to access. And I think it can be hard to do it alone too.
Yep.
And so I think that how can people band together? Like maybe now is a time for collaboration more than ever. How can people come together and maybe talk about this stuff together? I think it's absolutely like slow times can also be a good time for getting a coach or getting a therapist or, something like that can help you see a different vantage point. Because sometimes when we're stuck in it, we're just stuck in it. You need somebody else to be like, well, have you thought about this?
Yeah. That's so true. And like you mentioned, yeah, you just have to have that team to kind of, because you never know. Sometimes when we're all like in our own little bubbles, we think we're the only ones in that situation. But then everyone else in the industry could also be like, hey, I'm a little slow in this industry too. And then you guys are like, oh, okay, let's help each other out. And you won't feel as bad.
Yeah. I mean, definitely like there is support in numbers, and so how do you band together and support each other and come up with something maybe that's cooler than anything you would have imagined, What's the saying? I can't think of it. There's a saying about like, sort of like in scarcity, the coolest stuff can happen. It's kind of like, if you go to like, I think this saying came out of the Depression or something like that, and I'm not nailing it, but it's like some of the best like dishes in cooking have come to be because people only had like 3 things in their cabinet and they figured how to use those 3 things. And now it's like delicious ratatouille or something. I don't know.
So I like what you mentioned earlier about that heavy thing you said about finding your life's purpose, what you want to do in life. How can wedding vendors tap into their soul purpose and align their business with their deeper values, especially in such a fast-paced and trendy-driven industry?
Personally, like the first thing that comes to mind is sitting down and making a list of the things that you do within your career that light you up and a list of things that drain you. And maybe that includes a list of clients or other people that you work with that light you up and a list of people that drain you. And just sort of seeing what things in your life are creating vitality, are making you excited, are not depleting you, and focus your energy on those things. Focus your energy on collaborating with those people. The stuff that is draining you, that is dragging you down, deserves inquiry. I'm not saying that you should just give up on those things or quit them, but it does deserve some inquiry. Like, why are those things depleting you? Why are those things making you feel exhausted? Why are you resisting working with those people or doing those job responsibilities? And that may lead you to more questions. However, it's something that it's like a way that you can manage your vitality. And so maybe there are a few things on that list of like, you know what, I actually don't need to work with this specific client anymore. Or maybe there's a part of my business that I've been trying to do this extra thing and it's just not sticking. So it's depleting me. I'm cutting it off and I'm going to focus on what lights me up, what brings me passion, what brings me excitement. Because the more that we follow that path, the more of that will come. Like the universe just brings us more of that.
That's so crazy. And I think people don't really understand how powerful writing, like you mentioned, writing your stuff down truly is. I guess that also could bring down to journaling too. But when you write it down, it just like sticks better and it just happens, I guess.
Yeah, it's like having a conversation with yourself, which you could also do it that way. I just feel like people are probably more comfortable writing it down.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll do that. I'll walk around my house and have a conversation with myself. And like, sometimes that can feel really good. I think that's where sometimes we get lost is like, we don't go inward and really ask ourselves the hard questions. Like if we sit down and really think about being our own therapist or being our own coach, what are the questions we would ask our client? Or what are the questions that we would ask our best friend? What are the questions that we would ask somebody that we really love and care about if they were going through the same thing? And I feel like journaling can sort of like initiate that question and answer portion inside of you so that all of a sudden you're going deeper to explore the answers. And the more that we can shine light on the things that we're confused about, the more that we are going to be guided in the right direction, in a direction that feels good. It's when we sort of like stay stuck and stagnant and we're afraid to look inside that usually we're just going to stay. We just stay. We do the same things and we have the same routines and we keep trying the same things over and over and over again, but they aren't working. And it's like, okay, it's time to get serious and honest with yourself. And I promise that you can do it. And it's not as scary as it sounds.
This is crazy.
Man, I've just been soaking all of this in. Oh my goodness.
This is wild.
The wedding industry can sometimes be competitive and image driven, so to say. Like, how do you see ego? You talked a lot about ego earlier. How do you see ego showing up for wedding professionals, and how can we become more aware of it in our work?
I feel like there's sort of like a shadow side and a light side to everything. Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to, you know, appearances and aesthetics being number one, that doesn't have to be a bad thing if that brings you joy. If it brings you joy to help someone feel like they look their best, if it brings you joy to create the best photo, to create the best backdrop, whatever it might be, there's nothing wrong with that. If that lights you up, that's not necessarily ego just because we're talking about looks or aesthetics. If that makes you feel good, that's called art.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And so that's the sort of like light side of it. Then there's always the shadow side too and I think that exists around, you know, maybe the pressure to be something that you're not, or when you're trying to look a certain way, and that's not who you are, or maybe working with a client that is experiencing like those types of feelings can be tough. And so it's like, it's all about returning to authenticity and passion. And if you are doing something that lights you up, then you're an artist. You're allowed in that moment when we are acting on our passion, the universe, the energies, the like never ending energetic river of love that the universe is flowing through us. And that's why it feels good. It's because we're creating. We're creating and we're in our most authentic selves, and you like lose track of time and everything feels good. And you sort of like can hit that flow state, right? So that's when you know you're in true self. That's when you know you're being guided. I think anything else that sits outside of that can be a learning moment. Right. And so kind of what we talked about earlier, it's like, if this is making me feel not so great, or this is making me feel wrong, or there's something about this situation that's not sitting right with me, or I'm feeling drained, or I'm feeling angry, or I'm feeling like I've lost my power, my control, then don't be the victim. Take a step back and look at what this situation could be teaching you. And then from there, take your next step in a different direction.
That is deep. That is perfect answer, Liz. Thank you. So, but when people think of ego in the wedding industry, I'm gonna jump in it. So people think of snobs, people that are stuck up, people that are rude to any vendor that tries to talk to you, or thinking they're better than everyone else. So, I mean, that's how we think of like in the industry of someone that has an ego. So many creatives in the wedding space and tie their self-worth to their success of their business or client feedback. How does unchecked ego impact mental well-being and their professional relationship in the industry?
We packed a lot in there.
Yeah, that was like 5 questions in one.
Let's see what wants to come through. Okay. So first of all, I think that anyone who is operating from a place of like they're too good, or they come across as snobs, or, you know, whatever that might be, the unchecked ego, that is someone who's living in fear all the time. And so it's also like, as much as we can, it's none of our business too. Sure. Like, each person, each one of us are on our own individual path. Some people will reach a point where they're ready to walk a path of consciousness. And when you are ready to go inward and really get to know yourself, I think that you automatically start to have compassion and gratitude for people who drive you crazy because they can be your biggest teachers. It's like, if there's someone that has an unchecked ego that you're working with or working alongside or whatever it might be, and they are activating something inside of you that makes you angry or frustrated or jealous or whatever, or sad, that is a moment for you to look at why. Why am I allowing this person to make me feel this way? Because I get to decide how I want to feel. This person is on their own journey. They may or may not end up walking a path of consciousness, but thank you for showing me how I don't want to feel. And then what can you do inside of yourself to rise above or to maybe heal something inside of you that's needing a little bit of attention, you know? And so, yeah, does that answer the question?
Yeah, that's huge. That's, again, you just like switch that positive mindset when someone just like gives you that negative vibration. You know? Yeah,
exactly. It's like, nobody has the control to make us feel anything. We get to decide what that's going to be.
Yeah.
And there are varying degrees of that, obviously. Like, you know, when we're talking about things that happen at work, that's one thing. And then, you know, there are far worse things that can happen, you know, and obviously it would be hard to say that, like, you know, it's not that I'm saying you can't feel sad if somebody does something that would obviously make you sad. But what I'm saying is like that there is a nugget in there for us to learn from. That's the moment when we get to decide if we want to be the victim or if we want to like rise up and follow our voice of love.
That's crazy. And I like when you mentioned that ego could be fear. And when you mentioned that, it made me think about, so for example, you know, I know a lot of wedding photographers are in like the super luxury space, and those people are so nice. They're like, they give me any, like, help me out with any kind of information that I need, or they'll check out my site. I'm like, hey, this is what you should do. They're not fearing me as a competitor. They're not like afraid of losing bookings. But then sometimes if you like look at people that are under that space, they could be very standoffish. They could be, I guess, like you said, maybe they're in fear. Maybe they're very competitive. They don't want to lose bookings to you, I guess. I don't know.
Exactly. The ego is very competition based. The ego is there to believe that there's not enough to go around, and that there's scarcity, and that if you don't get it for yourself, somebody else is going to take it and there's not going to be another one. I think true self would have us believe that there's more than enough work to go around. There's more than enough money and clients and events to go around, and that we will attract what we're meant to attract when we're ready for it. And we sort of like let go of control a little bit. You let go of attachment to outcome and trust that your credentials, that the work that you've done so far and the energy that you bring to every job will attract the right jobs to you. And that's not to say that you don't still have to advertise and do the work and all of that. But when we trust and just release some of that control, we allow space for the universe to bring us something better than we ever could have imagined. I think when we're operating in the ego, we're like trying to control every little thing. And like, if I don't book this client, I'm not going to be okay. And like everybody else out of my way because I'm screwed if I don't get this thing. Or like, then that means I'm not good enough or whatever the story is. And so, yeah, it's a lower vibration and usually doesn't allow space for the universe to bring us really good stuff.
That was perfect answer. That was good. I'm sure a lot of people could relate and will take away that for sure. All right. So Liz, you answered everything amazingly. I mean, I'm sure everyone got some awesome insight and tips from you, but now we want to jump into a little game here. We like to call this game this or that. So basically we're just going to give you two answers and you choose which one you like.
Just rapid fire. First thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise.
Meditation or journaling?
Meditation.
coaching one-on-one or group workshops?
Group workshops.
Intuition or logic?
Intuition.
Coffee-fueled mornings or herbal tea evenings?
Coffee-filled mornings.
Vision boards or written affirmations?
Vision boards.
Working with creatives or corporate clients?
Creatives.
Energetic hustle or slow and intentional?
Energetic hustle.
There you go.
Networking events or solo reflection retreats?
Ooh, why is that a tough one? Solo reflection retreats.
That sounds cool. All right, speaking on a podcast or hosting a workshop?
Oh,
We won't be hurt. Oh, there you go. Pull.
Inner work or outer strategy first?
inner.
Spiritual books or business books?
Spiritual books.
Busy wedding season energy or off-season reset mode?
Off-season reset mode.
In-person connections or virtual coaching calls?
In-person connections.
Following your gut or following the plan?
Following your gut.
And last but not least, spiritual retreat in Bali or nap on the office couch?
Oh, Bali.
Bali would be amazing. Man, that'd be so cool. All right, Liz, thank you so much, but we're not done yet.
Okay.
We have one final question we love to ask every guest at the end of our show. If you could choose any superpower to have that could help the wedding vendors, what would it be and how would it help them?
Whoa, cool. I wish that I could have the superpower that, like, when I sprinkled magic fairy dust on people, they had unconditional love for themselves and could see infinite potential.
Wow.
Liz will just be the little Tinkerbell.
Totally.
Popping little fairy dust on everyone. Oh, everyone will just have their love themselves.
Fairy dust.
Yeah, we need that fairy dust in this industry, Liz.
Yeah. You guys got it. It's inside of you already.
It's true. Oh, all right, Liz. Where can everyone find you? Where can our listeners find you?
You can find me. I'm an interesting human being. I do not do social media.
Oh, well, that's probably good too.
Yeah, it's been good for me. I operate all on word of mouth, which has been awesome. So you can find me on my website, which is mysoulpurposenow.com.
Amazing, amazing. Everyone, you heard it. Go reach out to her, get some amazing tips and advice for self-love. Liz, thank you so much for taking the time to be on our show. We've learned so much.
Oh, thanks for having me. This was so fun.
Wow, what a soul nourishing conversation we had with Liz from Soul Purpose Now. Liz brought so much depth, wisdom, and presence to today's episode.
Yes, her approach to emotional well-being, her take on the voice of love versus fear, and her tips on journaling and meditation were seriously game changers, especially for creatives like us who give so much of ourselves to our work. We hope Liz's words inspired you to slow down, reconnect, and realign with your why.
That's for sure. I'll definitely be using these tips. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Wedding Vendors Happy Hour. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button to hear from some more amazing wedding professionals. Whether you're listening to our podcast or watching on YouTube, we appreciate your support. And remember, stay inspired and keep those wedding dreams alive. We'll catch you on Season 3, Episode 5.
Thank you for listening to the Wedding Vendors Happy